You said a few times this year that you are enjoying life on tour, maybe more than you have ever before. Why do you think that is?
Um, I think, just getting in the Hall of Fame and, winning the gold at the Olympics, I think there was like an internal handcuff that I had kind of put on myself, whether it was pressure or expectations. And I think with that all kind of being done, I think I was just able to play with a lot more freedom. And I think there was a clear case, at St. Andrews where I was just enjoying being there, enjoying the town. And I think I slowly just kind of crept up the leaderboard. And I feel like that's what I've been doing pretty well, since then. And it's nice because it's a bit more eye-opening, and I'm going to some of these areas that I've been to before, and I'm kind of venturing out and maybe going to a different restaurant and maybe not being as like golf course hotel. And I think that's just how it should be, and in ways I regret I didn't do that earlier, but maybe because I was a bit more focused, it gave me more opportunities. So it's just hard to say like what's the right way to do it, but I think those things kind of have made me feel a little bit more relaxed on the golf course. And I was talking to my mental coach, and I was saying that um, I noticed that, like, if even if I'm not playing well, I'm not thinking about, okay, what score am I going to shoot, but more, okay, what are the things that I can do on the golf course even to test out and see if that works and if that's going to help me. So it's been more of like an experiment in ways, and I think that's helped me to kind of turn around, or not have as long phases where I'm not hitting the ball well or putting well. So it's a different type of mindset, but as much as I'm playing, I still want to play well and have the chance to get Culvers with you this week. But yeah, it's fun, and I think because of all of those little ups and downs, in my career, I think it has given me the opportunity to be in this kind of mindset now. And I think if anything was a little different, then I wouldn't be like where I'm right now. So yeah, it's hard. It's the whole process that kind of brings me to where I am today.
We're going to stay back left. Brody?
As somebody who broke out at such a young age yourself, I'm curious, do you ever speak with, some of those kind of teenage golfers now coming up? And if so, kind of, what is your main advice about going through that pressure?
Yeah, I played Mizuho, and when you make it through the weekend, you get the opportunity to play with a few of the AJGA girls, and I mean, it's honestly so impressive. I played with one of the players, and I was like, wow, you should be playing on the same tees as me. Like, I think she shot a better score than me. It's impressive, like, in ways. I think age is just a number, but my caddy and I were joking that when you're that young, you're almost fearless. So you go for every pin, you're a lot more aggressive, but over time, whether it's the good and bad, it shapes you a little bit differently. And that was also a similar conversation I had with Yanni on Sunday. And we're a lot smarter now, but at the same time, it may look a little bit more tentative. But it's just, I think that experience kind of reflects like what type of player you become. And I think that experience in the long run is much more beneficial than probably the 15-year-old self that I was playing in Canada.
On the right, Rob?
Your record shows that your first U.S. Women's Open came up the road at Black Wolf Run. I was curious what you remember about that week, that year, and what do you wish you would have known then that you know now about a major championship?
I was very nervous. I remember I couldn't even line up my ball on the first green. So I tried a couple times and I gave up because I was like, this is not working. So that's when I think I really realized that, this meant a lot to me. And, the U.S. Women's Open is different to any other event I'd actually played in previously. So, yeah, it's, I think on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, you're getting ready, you're more focused about your course management and the now. But then when the tournament day comes, I think the adrenaline and all that kind of kicks in. And I just remember being so nervous, and that golf course was really difficult. And I don't know if my knowledge now will help me from like when I was playing back then, but I just realized that it was definitely a different test at a U.S. Women's Open.
On the left, Beth Ann, and then Jill.
I players have often described this as the one that they want the most. Do you feel that way now? And do you feel like pressure has held you back at this championship at any point?
I think this would be the one that I'd say, oh, I wish I was a U.S. Women's Open champion. I think it's a very small, it may seem like a large pool of people that are the past champions, but it's actually quite small. And I would obviously love to be part of that U.S. Women's Open champion club. But yeah, I don't know. I think the hardest thing about a U.S. Women's Open is that we don't really go back to the same golf course, and it takes a very long time to return to the same course. So unless I'm playing for, I don't know how many years, maybe the Pebble one would be the only one that I'd have the chance to maybe play again. It's hard because it's like a new course every year, and the schedule only gets busier, so to come out and do advanced practice rounds is difficult. But yeah, it's there's a lot of pressure, but I don't know what kind of mindset I'm going to have going into this week, but I'm really excited. I think you need to have a really good short game and kind of an open mind to how you're going to play around this golf course. And for the most part, I feel pretty comfortable. And I know that, I said to myself on Monday, I was like, this course is hard, but if it's hard for me, I feel like it's going to be hard for everyone. It's not like it's hard for a certain type of player. So I think in that way, I think it just gives me the freedom to just be out there, concentrate on how I want to go about things. And hopefully if I do a good job of that, that will give me some good opportunities. But I think this is also the type of golf course you need to hit a lot of quality golf shots and also get a little bit of fair, good bounces and luck as well. And I think when you win, you end up, kind of going through what happened the past 4 days, and all of those kind of come into mind.
Lydia, after all you achieved last year, you set achieving the career Grand Slam as a new goal of yours. How much of that is a priority and something that's top of mind for you this week?
Yeah, I mean, it's I'm probably going to have less chances at playing, these majors than how many I've played so far. But, that's the great thing about these opens. People come out of retirement and play some. People, kids that are still in high school play. Lucy Lee played when she was 11. That's the no boundary bit of the open. I think that's the cool thing about it. But yeah, I think if I don't get in the Hall of Fame, I won't retire. That's not kind of how I connect it. But I think as long as I'm playing, I think it's always good to have a goal so that when I'm working on things, I'm always going forward and not trying to think, I did this, so who cares? So it was just more to just keep myself more motivated. But even hopefully not, but even if I never win a U.S. Women's Open, I don't think I'm gonna wake up from my sleep and go, I never won. So it's just I'm obviously very proud of the things that have happened, and I would be over the moon if I, especially this week, to come off with a trophy. But I don't think that's gonna connect me more so to my identity later on.
Well, the LPGA Hall of Famer gets her championship started bright and early in the morning, 8:40 a.m. Eastern, alongside Yuka Sato and Rhian Maliksi. So let's go out and find the world number 3. She's out on the range at the moment, Beth Ann, and there's obviously a bit of history on the line for her, looking for her 4th different LPGA major, which really is pretty significant. But when you think of US Women's Opens, you think of big hitters, and then you don't necessarily think of Lydia Ko, but there is so much to her game. Why do you think she really could be a contender this week?
I think if there was a strokes gain for creativity, I think she would be at the top of the list. I think if there was a strokes gain for being mentally strong, she would be at the top of the list. And I think this golf course demands both of those. And I think what she said in that press conference about feeling handcuffed internally, trying to get into the LPGA Hall of Fame, trying to win Olympic gold, when she accomplished both of those and she felt the freedom that then of course we saw her, of course, win 2 weeks later at the British Open. I think that freedom is carrying her, you know, even now, and I'm excited to see how she tackles this golf course, because I think it will show all of the best traits that have made her the Hall of Fame player that she is. And I think that her perspective right now and how much she's enjoying things is just off the charts. It's house money.
I don't think you can say it any better than you just said it, Beth Ann. You know, when I think about her, I think of her fierce originality. She reminds me of Seve. You know, there was never a precursor for Seve. And when I look at Lydia Ko with a short iron in her hands, or chipping around the greens, or hitting a bunker shot, it just makes me stop what I'm doing. I'm like, how does she do that? How does she? I mean, she may well be the best bunker player in the world, male or female. I mean, her hands are so good, her imagination is so good. So I couldn't agree more with you. And you know, she talked about hoping maybe to join that elite club of the U.S. Open. Well, if she were to win the U.S. Open, of course she would join that club, but she would join an even more elite club. Anna touched on this a minute ago. 7 women have won 4 different major championships. And it's worth just taking a look at these absolute legends and who they are. You know, the first one to do it was the great Louise Suggs. Louise Suggs, by the way, she has the record for winning the U.S. Women's Open by the widest margin. She won by 14. Back then it was the title holders, Western, the U.S. Women's Open, the LPGA. Mickey Wright won 13 majors, 4 U.S. Opens along the way. Pat Bradley, remember 1986, she won 3 majors that particular year, but 4 majors to her credit. Julie Inkster, I don't know how she did it. And all those kids winning all those majors, I don't know. She's just a miracle worker. I just don't get it, but she's... golf is a hell of a lot better with her in it, I can tell you that. And then Kari Webb, she's the one on here who's won 5 different majors. She's the last to win what I would say the U.S. Open by a wide margin. Going away in 2001, she won by 8, but 7 majors to her career. Annika Sorenstam, 10 majors. Of course, she got her career started with a win in 95 at the U.S. Open, backed it up in 96. And then Inbee Park, who had that phenomenal 2013 season, but 7 majors to her credit. So she's trying to join. We talk about Rory, what he did at the Masters, Jordan Spieth trying to do it at the PGA Championship. So, you know, here she is, and we haven't talked about it that much, but I mean, that's a very elite company, and it's probably not the best course for her, Mel, but to Beth's point, she's just so strong mentally, I wouldn't put it past her.
And I think she's even more mentally strong now that she's, what, 28, 29 years old. You know, I think that she was a prodigy, wasn't she? She was winning on the LPGA at, what, 15, 16, just ludicrous stuff. The thing that comes at a cost. When you're that good, that young, it comes at a cost. You know, you basically are living, breathing, eating, sleeping golf. You know, then she comes and bursts on the scene on the LPGA. You know, she spoke about in a press conference, at times on tour, she's kind of gone golf, you know, gym, hotel, repeat. Golf, gym, hotel. Haven't really done anything else. It's kind of been all-consuming with her. Now she has a life outside of golf. She has married her husband, June. I think he's a massively unsung hero in her team. To be quite honest with you, I hate using the word balance, but that's the only word that I can think of right now, is that she has outside of golf. She has something that takes her away, that switches her off. I think she's happier the happiest I've ever seen her as a human being, which puts a smile on my face personally. And I think she's still doing all the hard work. She's still grafting. She's still putting a huge amount of time into her craft, but she's now able to switch off from it. And I think that is what makes Lydia Ko at the minute so dangerous.
Yeah, and let's not forget, she's already won this year as well at the HSBC Women's World Championship. So she's in winning ways. She's in great form, clearly in a great headspace as well. And don't look past Lydia Ko to making this history and winning the US Women's Open and joining that list that Brandel pointed out of the true legends of the game, of which she is already on so many of those lists already.